soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force. You are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you. In company with our brave allies and brothers in arms on other fronts, you will bring about the destruction of the German war machine, the elimination of Nazi tyranny over the oppressed peoples of Europe, and security for ourselves in a free world. Your task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened. He will fight savagely. But this is the year 1944. Much has happened since the Nazi triumphs of 1940-41. The United Nations have inflicted upon the Germans great defeats in open battle, man to man. Our air offensive has seriously reduced their strength in the air and their capacity to wage war on the ground. Our home fronts have given us an overwhelming superiority in weapons and munitions of war, and placed at our disposal great reserves of trained fighting men. The tide has turned. The free men of the world are marching together to victory. I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty, and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than full victory. Good luck, and let us all beseech the blessing of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking.
In the hours just before D-Day, thousands of Allied soldiers are readying themselves for the battle ahead.
Personally, I found myself saying a prayer. And it was a prayer that just didn't end. You just keep talking to yourself. And that prayer was not that may I live through this so much as may I do my job and not let your buddy down. That's the important thing.
The paratroopers flying into France are at the leading edge of a vast invasion force. Beneath them, thousands of amphibious assault troops, special forces divisions, and fleets of bombers leave the coast of southern England.
You could see all the ships at sea, literally hundreds and hundreds of ships, and you felt like you could walk from one deck to the other.
The invasion plan calls for landings on 5 different Normandy beaches. Americans to the west on beaches codenamed Utah and Omaha, and British and Canadians to the east on Gold, Juno, and Sword. Years of painstaking research has gone into this plan, with the most critical intelligence provided by air reconnaissance units.
Generals have to make decisions based on several factors. Are the beaches a practical place for landing? What are the problems when you get to the beaches? How heavily are they defended? And many of these things can be determined by photographs taken from high, medium, or low level.
Almost 1 million recon photographs have been taken in preparation for June the 6th. Tonight, the time for planning is over. The success or failure of D-Day now depends upon the men heading into France. D-Day begins just after midnight, when under the cover of darkness, 3 gliders are towed to the French coast. On board, Major John Howard and his elite airborne troops prepare themselves for their mission.
Personally, I was frightened to death. I was literally sitting in my seat in the glider, and my teeth were chattering, my knees were knocking. I thought, well, you know, this is my last time on Earth, and I'm going to I'll probably die within the next hour or two.
6.5 hours before the beach landings are due to begin, these men must capture Pegasus Bridge. Lying just 4.5 miles from the invasion beaches, the bridge must be taken intact. Allied forces will need to cross here as they fight their way inland. Air reconnaissance images have enabled the men to carefully plan their attack on the bridge.
We could see really every detail. We could see the design of the trenches cut into the banks of the canal. We could see a pillbox on the end of a canal. We could see other German positions all round the bridges. And therefore the detail that people were briefed on for this operation was intense.
But even with the best preparation, the capture of Pegasus Bridge will be fraught with danger.
I think practically all of us, without exception, thought that we were on a suicide mission. What really frightened us was the 21st Panzer, which was a real battle-hardened group. They were in the area around Caen, 6 or 7 miles from where we were landing, and they told us they had around 350 tanks between them. And we thought, my God, they only need half a dozen of those to come up the road, and we're in trouble.
The gliders now detach from the bombers towing them. And at just 16 minutes past midnight, the leading glider smashes down into the fields beside Pegasus Bridge.
I was in the first glider, and we hit the ground around about 100 miles an hour.
The airborne troops have landed just 47 yards from Pegasus Bridge, exactly as planned.
Then there was a great scramble to get out, because, you know, the last thing you want to be when you just landed close to a guarded bridge is to be sitting in a wooden glider. Almost as soon as we cleared the glider, Major Howard, typical of him, he was up on the bank of the canal saying, "Come on, boys, this is it, come on!" And we all charged after him. We'd been told that the Germans had got explosives on the bridge, and as soon as they thought it was under attack, they'd been ordered to blow it up. So we had to get there fast. And Danny Brotheridge, who was our platoon commander, he went charging across the bridge. We went charging after him.
Lieutenant Brotheridge leads the charge across Pegasus Bridge.
We were shouting our heads off and making as much noise as we could to frighten the Germans.
Brotheridge fires the first Allied shots of D-Day, killing one of the sentries. But seconds later, he is himself struck down by shots from a German machine gun. The British lieutenant is the first Allied soldier killed by German bullets on D-Day. But his charge has had its desired effect. The other German guards beat a hasty retreat.
By the time we got to that end of the bridge, they had decided it was not a good place to be staying around. We scattered to either side of the bridge, up and down the canal bank, and took up all-round defensive positions.
It is now 21 minutes past midnight, and the airborne troops have taken control of Pegasus Bridge. Despite the first Allied casualty, it is an auspicious start to D-Day. The small group of Brits remain isolated behind enemy lines, with a long night ahead of them. They must now hold the bridge until reinforcements arrive. But with their limited supply of weapons, they may not be able to withstand an armored counterattack. Soon the men hear the comforting sound of Allied aircraft approaching. 23,400 American and British paratroopers are on their way to Normandy. And by 1 a.m., they are getting ready to jump.
And we went into the landing craft. I would say it was around 6:30 in the morning of June the 6th. As the landing craft took off and we got close to the beach, the first and second waves that went in, when the gangplanks were lowered, about 80% of the infantry and engineers that were in the first and second waves, 80% of them were immediately killed. So it didn't leave too many on that beach, you know. And remember, the 29th was going in, the 1st was going in, and all and up and down the beaches, Utah was being invaded. The English were going in their locations and so forth. So without a doubt, it was a busy day. And we were told not to go out the front of the ship, but to go over the side of the ship. So naturally, I had 60 pounds of equipment on my back. Soldiers had their stuff, and over the side we went. I can't swim. And not only I couldn't swim, there was a few others on that landing craft that couldn't swim neither. And when we went over, the water was over our head. And with 60 pounds, naturally, it took us down. And my first thought was to get back up. I wasn't worried about getting shot. I was worried about not drowning. And so were the other guys. When we got up, came back up, we held on to the side of the landing craft, and then we start to help each other to get into the beach. When we finally got to the beach, there was no craters for us to hide in. And naturally, the machine guns up there were firing without a doubt. And that day, for me, was considered my longest day of my life. And Omaha got the name of Bloody Omaha because the only thing you could see were soldiers lying on a beach that were dead, blood all around you, soldiers that were wounded, and it was just a mess on that beach. That's when we realized how lucky we were that the Panzer divisions were up in Calais. Because if the Panzer divisions would have been down at Normandy, without a doubt, we would have been driven back into the ocean.
Are you literally having to push bodies in the water out the way?
The answer is yes. You're pushing bodies because if they were dead, naturally they're floating in the water. And the water leading up to the beach was loaded with red blood. It was bloody, that's what was called Bloody Omaha. And it was just a matter, and not only that, some of the units that were landing on the beach were not landing where they were supposed to land. It was such disaster that was going on. It was confusion all over that beach.
What were you thinking at that point as you wade through the bodies floating in the water, trying to get onto the beach? What on earth is a soldier thinking at that point?
Well, basically, I believe each one was trying to say, where can I go to be saved? Where can I hide? Where can I be so I won't get hit? You know, machine gun bullets are coming at you pretty fast, and there's no place to hide. Now, naturally, when you came ashore, there were all these obstacles, these iron metal things that they had put in the water also to keep the ships from getting into the beach. So you try to hide behind those. Any place that you could find, a place to dig in, somewheres in the dirt and hide, that's what you were doing. Your main objective was not communications. Your main objective was to find a place where you feel you could be safe for at least 10 or 15 minutes.
Your main objective was to stay alive.
Stay alive. And I would assume that each soldier had the same thought. I could be wrong, but that was my thoughts. What can I do to stay alive so that I could be able to perform my duty that I was sent to do? When the troops started to move and I was able to get out of what I had crawled into, I was walking around when I bumped into the sergeant of that landing craft. And, you know, I asked him how he was doing. He said, fine. He says, I just wanted to notify you. He says, you and I are the only two who survived from that landing craft. And I said to him, you mean to say you lost your whole squad? And he said, yes, I lost my whole squad.
So within 12 hours of the 36 of you who got off that landing craft, there were only 2 of you.
2 of us who survived that landing craft.
Presumably this is the first time you'd seen people killed in action as well.
It's the first time I ever saw anybody killed.
What was that like?
Well, again, you know, to see dead bodies, and some of them were not, you know, their faces could have been destroyed, their arms cut off, legs lost. It was just one horrible mess.
Is it more difficult for you every anniversary?
I find that every year it becomes harder for me to talk about this. And again, it comes back. But I feel that it's very important that I talk in schools and to people so that everybody will realize that freedom was not free. A lot of people gave their lives so this generation, the next generation, and many people who are living in our country today realize they're free. What would have happened if that would have not been a successful war? But the most important thing that I look at is when we were sending messages and how lucky we were that Hitler decided to move those Panzer divisions up to Calais, because if not, who knows if I'd be here sitting talking right now at all.